I want a baby. Will you help me?
Marcus stood in the elevator at Wellington Industries, holding a worn leather briefcase that had seen better days. He was 42 years old and worked as a contractor fixing things around the building. His daughter Emma was starting college next fall, and he had been saving every penny. The elevator doors opened on the executive floor, and he stepped out into a world of marble and glass. He had been called to repair a window latch in the main office. When he knocked on the mahogany door, a voice called out for him to enter. The woman behind the desk took his breath away. Victoria Wellington was 38, and her blonde hair caught the afternoon light streaming through the windows. She wore a crisp white blouse, and her green eyes held both strength and something else, something that looked like loneliness. She stood and extended her hand. Her grip was firm, but her smile was uncertain. Marcus had seen her around the building before, but never this close. She was the CEO of a company worth millions, yet she seemed nervous. They made small talk while he worked on the window. She asked about his daughter, and he found himself telling stories about Emma learning to ride a bike and her love of astronomy. Victoria listened with genuine interest. When he finished the repair, she asked if he would stay for coffee. It was an unusual request, but something in her voice made him say yes. They sat in the leather chairs by the window and talked for an hour. She told him about building her company from nothing after her father passed away, about working 70-hour weeks and missing holidays and birthdays, about success that felt hollow when you had no one to share it with. Marcus understood. He had raised Emma alone after his wife died when Emma was just 3 years old. There had been years of struggle and sacrifice, years of being both mother and father, years of wondering if he was doing enough. Victoria poured them both more coffee, and her hands were shaking slightly. She took a deep breath and looked directly at him. What she said next changed everything. She told him that she was running out of time, that she had always wanted children, but kept putting it off for her career. Now she was watching that dream slip away. She had spent months thinking about this, and she had made a decision. She wanted to have a baby, not through anonymous donation. She wanted to know the father, wanted the child to have the option of knowing both parents. She had watched him with his daughter over the past year, seen the gentle way he guided her, heard the pride in his voice when he spoke of her. She was asking him to help her have a child. Marcus felt the room tilt. His coffee cup stopped halfway to his lips. He set it down carefully on the table between them. The silence stretched out like a bridge neither of them knew how to cross. He looked at this woman who had everything the world valued, yet was asking him for the one thing money could not buy. His first thought was of Emma. His second thought was of the years he had spent alone, putting his daughter first always, never even considering that he might want more from life. Victoria was speaking again, her voice steady despite the vulnerability in her eyes. She was not asking for marriage or even a relationship. She would handle everything financially. The child would know him if he wanted. If he chose to be involved, she would welcome it. If not, she would understand. But she needed this chance. This one last chance to be a mother. Marcus thought about the basement apartment where he and Emma had lived for years, about the second-hand clothes and the birthday cakes he learned to bake himself, about reading bedtime stories in funny voices until Emma fell asleep smiling, about the fierce love that had sustained them both. He thought about growing older, about Emma leaving for college, about going home to an empty apartment for the first time in nearly 2 decades. He thought about this woman before him who had built an empire but had no one to share breakfast with, who would go home tonight to a penthouse that echoed with silence. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. He told her he needed time to think. She nodded and gave him her personal number. As he rode the elevator down, he felt like he was descending through his whole life, past and future swirling together. That night, he talked to Emma, his daughter who was so much wiser than her 18 years. She listened quietly while he explained the situation. Then she took his hand and smiled. She told him that he had given her everything, that she had never once doubted his love, that maybe it was time for him to think about his own happiness. She said she had always wanted a sibling, even if the circumstances were unusual. A week later, Marcus called Victoria. They met at a quiet cafe away from the corporate towers. He told her yes, but he wanted to be involved. He wanted to know his child, be a father in truth, not just biology. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She reached across the table and took his hand. What followed was not a fairy tale. It was better because it was real. They became friends first. Genuine friends who talked for hours about everything and nothing, who learned each other's stories and scars. When Victoria became pregnant, they were both terrified and thrilled. Marcus went to every appointment. Emma knit a tiny blanket in yellow and white. When baby Michael was born on a snowy January morning, Marcus held him and wept. Victoria watched this man cradle their son with the same tenderness he had shown his daughter. Emma came to the hospital and met her baby brother. The family they had become was unconventional, but it was theirs. Marcus still lived in his basement apartment. Victoria still ran her company. But 3 evenings a week Marcus would bring dinner to the penthouse. Emma would join them on weekends. They would sit around Victoria's table, now cluttered with baby toys and formula bottles, and they would laugh. Life had given them all a second chapter when they thought the book was finished. Sometimes the greatest gifts come not from following the expected path, but from having the courage to write your own story, even when your hands are shaking, even when you are terrified, even when everyone else might not understand. Marcus learned that it is never too late to become a father again. Victoria learned that the best things in life cannot be scheduled or planned. And Emma learned that family is not about biology or tradition. It is about love and showing up and choosing each other every single day. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment telling us about the unexpected blessings in your own life. Sometimes the family we need finds us in the most surprising ways.